The great hall of Meridian Station buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from across the galaxy gathered for the most urgent session in Council history. The insectoid hive collective chittered anxiously among themselves while their queen speakers. Wings trembled with barely contained fear. Nearby, the gaseous forms of the nebula dwellers swirled in agitated patterns, their translucent bodies flickering between colors that had no names in any solid species language. The crystalline stone singers stood in perfect formation, their harmonic voices creating a low, mournful tone that seemed to echo the desperation filling the chamber. The captain, Lisa Torres of the human exploration vessel Horizon, sat quietly in the observers section watching the alien representatives with keen interest. Humans were still newcomers to the galactic community, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 50 years ago. Most species still viewed them with curiosity rather than respect. But today fear overshadowed all other emotions in the chamber. The Hive Queen speaker rose from her crystalline throne, her forearms gesturing dramatically as she began to speak through the universal translator. Fellow beings of the galaxy, we face annihilation. The creatures we call devourers have struck again. 3 more colonies have fallen in the past month alone. First, the mining station on Kepler 7 was consumed entirely. Then the agricultural world of New Harvest was stripped bare. Most recently, the research facility at Titan's Edge simply vanished, leaving only twisted metal and empty space. A collective shudder ran through the assembled delegates. The stone singers' harmonic voices rose in pitch, creating a sound that would have been beautiful under other circumstances but now carried only dread. One of their speakers, a tall being whose body resembled living diamond, stepped forward with movements that created tiny musical notes. "We have tried everything in our power," the stone singer announced, its voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Our most advanced weapons pass through them as if they were made of nothing. Our shields cannot hold them back. They appear without warning, consume what they will, and disappear into the void. We believe they are not truly physical beings, but something far worse." The Nebula Dweller representative, a shifting cloud of purple and gold gases, pulsed with agitation. "Our scientists theorize they exist partially outside normal spacetime. This is why our technology fails against them. They are not bound by the same physical laws that govern our universe. We have lost 17 stations to these monsters, and each attack grows bolder." Captain Torres listened carefully, taking notes on her tablet while observing the alien's body language. Fear was universal, it seemed, regardless of species. The way the Hive Queen speaker's antennae twitched, how the stone singer's usual perfect harmonies had become discordant, and the chaotic swirling of the nebula dwellers all spoke of a terror that had shaken the very foundations of galactic civilization. "What do these devourers look like?" Torres asked, her voice cutting through the ambient noise of the chamber. The question was simple, but it caused every head, appendage, and sensory organ to turn toward her. The Hive Queen speaker's compound eyes focused on the human captain. They are massive, at least 50 meters in length. Their bodies seem to shift between solid and ethereal states. Most disturbing are the patterns of light that flow across their skin. The patterns seem almost intelligent, as if they are trying to communicate, but any attempt to respond results in immediate and total destruction. Torres nodded, making more notes. "You mentioned they consume installations. Are there any patterns to what they target?" The stone singer's crystalline form chimed softly as it considered the question. "They seem to prefer communication arrays and power generators. They also show particular interest in agricultural facilities and research stations. However, they rarely attack civilian populations directly, which makes their behavior even more mysterious." "Have you attempted communication?" Torres asked, ignoring the surprised looks from the other delegates. The nebula dweller's gaseous form darkened to a deep red. "Communication? These are monsters, human. They consume entire worlds. What possible communication could there be with such creatures?" Torres stood up, her calm demeanor contrasting sharply with the panic around her. "Captain, I would like to request all available data on these devourers. Battle recordings, sensor logs, debris analysis, anything you have?" The Hive Queen speaker's wings began to beat rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. Human captain, surely you do not intend to seek these creatures out. They have destroyed the combined fleets of 3 different species. Your people are brave, but this is suicide. I also need the coordinates of the last known sighting, Torres continued, seemingly ignoring the warning. My crew and I will investigate. Personally. The chamber fell silent except for the soft harmonic tones of the stone singers, who seemed to be conferring among themselves. The Nebula Dweller representative swirled into a tight, angry spiral. This is madness, the gaseous being declared. No ship has ever encountered these creatures and returned intact. You will be destroyed just as the others were. Torres smiled, an expression that seemed to confuse the alien delegates. Maybe, but humans have a saying, curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. We need to understand what we're dealing with before we can solve this problem. The Hive Queen speaker's antennae drooped in what appeared to be resignation. Very well, human captain. We will provide you with all the information we have, though I fear we are simply sending you to your death. The data will be transmitted to your vessel within the hour. As the session ended and the various species began to file out of the chamber, Torres remained seated, studying her notes. The behavior patterns the aliens described didn't match those of mindless monsters. There was purpose behind the actions, intelligence that the other species had missed in their terror. Her communications officer approached from the back of the chamber. Captain, are you sure about this? The aliens aren't wrong about the danger level. Torres looked up from her tablet, her eyes bright with determination. Tom, in my experience, the things that scare us most are usually the things we understand least. These devourers might be dangerous, but they're also behaving in ways that suggest intelligence. If there's even a chance they're trying to communicate rather than simply destroy, we need to find out. The captain gathered her notes and headed toward the exit, her mind already working through the possibilities. Behind her, the great hall of Meridian Station stood empty except for the lingering fear that seemed to have soaked into the very walls. Somewhere in the dark spaces between stars, the creatures the galaxy called Devourers continued their mysterious work, unaware that humanity was about to approach them with something no other species had offered, genuine curiosity instead of immediate hostility. The research lab aboard the Horizon hummed with activity as Dr. Marcus Webb spread holographic displays across every available surface. Data streams from the Galactic Council painted a picture of destruction that had terrorized civilizations for centuries, but Webb saw something else entirely in the patterns of light and movement. Look at this, he said to Captain Torres, highlighting a sequence of attacks over the past year. The aliens call it random destruction, but there's clear purpose here. Every single target had something in common. Torres leaned over the display, studying the 3-dimensional map that showed attack sites scattered across 17 systems. They're all communication hubs or research facilities, but why would monsters care about that? Webb adjusted the display, zooming in on the debris field from the destroyed station at Kepler 7. That's just it, Captain. I don't think they're monsters at all. Look at the damage patterns from the security recordings. The creatures weren't just destroying things randomly. They were trying to access something specific. On the holographic display, ghostly images of the massive beings moved through the wreckage of the research station. Their bioluminescent patterns pulsed in steady rhythms as they carefully examined communication arrays and data storage units. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to be trying to preserve certain equipment even while dismantling other parts of the station. Engineering Chief Amy Rodriguez joined them at the display, her tablet showing structural analysis data. I've been going through the wreckage reports from all the attacks. The damage suggests these creatures were trying to break into something rather than simply destroy it. See these cut patterns? They're too precise to be random destruction. The ship's navigation system chimed softly, indicating they had reached their destination. Through the viewports, the twisted remains of Kepler 7 research station drifted in the void, its broken hull gleaming in the light of a distant star. The station had been humanity's first major research installation in this sector, dedicated to studying quantum communication technologies. "Take us in slowly," Torres ordered. "Full sensor sweeps. I want to know if anything is still alive out there." As the horizon moved through the debris field, Webb continued his analysis of the alien data. "Captain, I'm seeing something interesting in the attack patterns. The creatures always seem to target installations that use quantum communication technology. The aliens use different quantum principles than we do, but there's definitely a connection." Rodriguez looked up from her engineering console. "That's strange. Our quantum systems work on completely different mathematical principles than the alien technology. If these creatures are targeting quantum installations, why would they be interested in human research?" The answer came sooner than expected. The ship's sensors detected a massive structure hidden among the larger pieces of debris. It was the station's main computer core, damaged but still partially functional. More importantly, it was surrounded by several pieces of equipment that seemed to have been carefully arranged rather than randomly scattered. "There," Webb pointed to the display showing the computer core. "They were trying to access the station's memory banks. This wasn't random destruction at all. They were looking for something specific." Torres made her decision quickly. "Rodriguez, take a team over there and see if you can extract any data from that core, but be careful. If these creatures are still in the area, I want to know about it immediately." As the away team prepared for their spacewalk, the ship's long-range sensors began picking up movement in the asteroid field beyond the debris. 3 massive forms emerged from hiding places among the larger rocks, their bodies seeming to shift between solid and ethereal states just as the aliens had described. The creatures were exactly as the Galactic Council had reported, 50 meters long, with bodies that appeared to be made of living light held together by some invisible force. Most striking were the patterns of bioluminescence that flowed across their skin like rivers of stars. The patterns pulsed in complex rhythms that seemed almost musical in their precision. "My God," Torres whispered, watching the creatures on the main display. "They're beautiful." Webb was already recording everything, his scientific instruments working overtime to capture data about beings that defied every known law of physics. "Captain, they're not attacking, they're just waiting." The 3 creatures maintained their distance from the horizon, their bioluminescent patterns continuing to pulse in coordinated sequences. Occasionally, one would move closer to the debris field, examine something with what appeared to be sensory organs, then return to its position with the others. "They're studying the wreckage," Rodriguez reported from her position near the computer core. "Every time I move a piece of equipment, they react. Their light patterns change, almost like they're trying to communicate." Webb's excitement was barely contained as he watched the creatures respond to the away team's activities. "Captain, I think they're trying to tell us something. Look at the mathematical relationships in their light patterns. They're using prime numbers, then moving to geometric sequences. This isn't random bioluminescence. This is language." Communications Officer Tom Mitchell had been quietly working at his station, running the creature's light patterns through every translation program in the ship's database. "Doctor, I think you're right. I'm getting mathematical relationships that suggest complex communication, but it's unlike anything we've ever encountered. The creatures seemed to sense that the humans were trying to understand them. Their light patterns became more deliberate, slower, as if they were trying to teach rather than simply communicate. One of them moved closer to the horizon, its massive form dwarfing the human vessel, but its approach was cautious rather than threatening. "Captain," Mitchell called out, his voice tight with excitement, "I think I know what they're doing. They're responding to our navigation lights. Every time our automated systems blink in sequence, they adjust their patterns. They're not just trying to communicate with us. They're trying to teach us their language." Torres felt a chill run down her spine as she realized the implications. If they're intelligent enough to recognize our attempts at communication and adjust their approach accordingly, then they're not the mindless monsters the galaxy believes them to be. Webb was already deep in analysis, his instruments recording every nuance of the creature's behavior. Captain, I'm detecting quantum fluctuations around them that suggest they exist partially outside normal spacetime. That would explain why conventional weapons can't affect them. But it also means they might perceive reality in ways we can't imagine. The largest of the three creatures moved even closer, its bioluminescent patterns now pulsing in simple mathematical sequences. It would flash a series of lights representing the number 3, then pause, then flash the number 5, then 7, then 11. Prime numbers, the universal language of mathematics. They're trying to establish a baseline for communication, Mitchell realized. They're using mathematics because it's the only language that would be universal to any intelligent species. Torres made her decision. Mitchell, respond to them. Use our navigation lights to send back the next sequence. Show them we understand. As the Horizon's navigation lights began flashing in response to the creature's mathematical sequences, something extraordinary happened. The three beings moved closer together, their individual light patterns merging into a single, complex display of communication. The fear that had driven galactic civilization to the brink of panic began to transform into something else entirely. The possibility of first contact with beings beyond their understanding. The creatures they had called devourers were not monsters at all. They were something far more significant. The first truly alien intelligence humanity had encountered, and they were desperately trying to communicate something important to anyone who would listen. The bridge of the Horizon had been transformed into a massive communication center as Tom Mitchell worked frantically to decode the bioluminescent patterns of the three creatures. Every surface displayed different aspects of their light-based language, from basic mathematical sequences to increasingly complex geometric patterns that seemed to describe concepts beyond human understanding. They're getting frustrated, Dr. Webb observed, watching as the creature's light patterns began flashing more rapidly. Look at how they keep repeating the same sequences. It's like they're trying to explain something urgent, but we're missing the point. Captain Torres stood at the center of the bridge, her eyes moving between the displays showing the creature's communications and the tactical readouts that confirmed more of the beings were approaching from deeper in the system. How many more are coming? Sensors show at least 12 more signatures moving in from the outer asteroid belt, Rodriguez reported from her engineering station. But Captain, they're not coming in attack formation. They're maintaining the same cautious distance as the first three. The breakthrough came when Mitchell noticed something about the creature's response to the ship's automated systems. Captain, they're not just responding to our navigation lights. They're responding to everything. Our life support systems, our quantum drive signatures, even our waste heat disposal. They're reading our entire technological signature. Webb leaned over Mitchell's shoulder, studying the correlation between the ship's systems and the creature's light patterns. That's impossible. Our technology is completely different from anything the galactic species use. How could they understand our systems better than we understand theirs? The answer came from an unexpected source. Engineering Chief Rodriguez had been monitoring the creature's quantum signatures and noticed something that made her blood run cold. Captain, I think I know why they're interested in human technology. Our quantum systems are operating on principles that seem to be immune to something. The creatures are reacting to our quantum field differently than they react to anything else in this system. Torres felt a chill run down her spine. What do you mean, immune to something? Before Rodriguez could answer, the creature's communication patterns suddenly changed. Instead of the steady mathematical sequences they had been using, their bioluminescent displays became chaotic, almost panicked. The largest creature moved closer to the horizon, its massive form now close enough that individual details of its structure were visible. My God, Webb whispered, staring at the detailed scans. It's not just one creature. It's a collective consciousness. Those light patterns aren't just communication. They're thoughts being shared between multiple beings. The creature's proximity allowed the ship's sensors to detect something that changed everything. Hidden within the bioluminescent displays were images, memories, and concepts that told a story of galactic proportions. The creatures were not destroyers at all. They were gardeners desperately trying to save the galaxy from something that other species could not perceive. "Mitchell, are you getting this?" Torres asked as the communication displays filled with images of star systems, quantum signatures, and something that looked like a spreading infection moving through spacetime itself. "Captain, they're showing us a map of the galaxy," Mitchell replied, his voice tight with concentration. "But it's not a normal map. It's showing quantum structures, subspace layers, and something else. Something that looks like it's consuming entire regions of space." The creatures' name for themselves finally came through the translation matrix. They called themselves the Gardeners, and they had been fighting a war for centuries against an enemy that most species could not even detect. The enemy was not a physical force but a quantum virus that spread through faster-than-light technology, destabilizing the very fabric of spacetime. Webb's hands shook as he processed the implications. "Captain, they're showing us that every faster-than-light jump, every quantum communication, every piece of advanced technology used by the galactic species is spreading this virus. It's not destroying space. It's changing it into something else entirely." The images from the creatures showed regions of space where the virus had taken hold. In these areas, the laws of physics had become unstable. Matter could not exist in stable forms, energy flowed in impossible directions, and time itself moved in loops and spirals that defied understanding. 3 entire star systems had already been consumed, their billions of inhabitants simply ceasing to exist as reality itself broke down around them. "This is why they've been destroying installations," Torres realized. "They're not attacking civilization. They're trying to contain the spread of the virus by eliminating infected quantum technology." The creatures' communication became more urgent as they showed the humans the true scope of the crisis. The virus had reached critical mass in several key systems, and the Galactic Council's response to the attacks had made everything worse. Every military response, every new defense system, every attempt to fight the Devourers had only spread the quantum infection further. Rodriguez looked up from her engineering console, her face pale with understanding. "Captain, they're showing us why they're interested in human technology. Our quantum systems work on different principles than alien technology. We might be naturally immune to whatever this virus is." The largest creature moved even closer to the horizon, its bioluminescent patterns now displaying what appeared to be a star map with human space highlighted in a different color. The message was clear: humanity might be the key to stopping the spread of the quantum virus. "They've been looking for us," Webb said, his voice filled with awe. "All these attacks, all this destruction, they've been searching for a species whose technology operates on principles that might be immune to the virus." The communication display suddenly filled with images of devastating beauty and terror. The creatures showed them their home, a massive living ship that existed partially outside normal spacetime. Inside this ship, the Gardeners had been developing weapons and techniques to fight the quantum virus, but their methods appeared destructive to species that could not perceive the quantum-level damage. "They're not monsters," Torres said, her voice filled with wonder and horror. "They're the galaxy's immune system, trying to fight off an infection that's going to destroy everything." The creature's next communication was the most terrifying of all. They showed the humans the Galactic Council's latest defensive measure, a massive network of quantum barriers designed to protect the core worlds from the Devourers. The barriers were nearly complete, and when activated, they would create a quantum resonance that would accelerate the virus's spread exponentially. "How long do we have?" Torres asked, though she dreaded the answer. The creature's response was immediate and clear. The barrier network would be activated within days, and when it was, the quantum virus would consume half the galaxy within months. The other half would follow shortly after, leaving nothing but twisted spacetime where billions of civilizations had once thrived. "We have to warn the Council," Mitchell said, but even as he spoke, he knew the challenge they faced. How could They convinced the galaxy's leadership that their salvation would actually cause their destruction. The creatures seemed to understand the humans' dilemma. Their communication patterns changed again, showing images of cooperation between humans and gardeners. They were willing to work with humanity to find a solution, but time was running out. The virus had already begun to affect the quantum barriers, and the resonance cascade would begin whether the Council activated the system or not. Torres made her decision with the calm authority that had earned her command of the horizon. Mitchell, prepare a message to the Galactic Council. Tell them we need to meet at Lee. Rodriguez, work with Dr. Webb to understand everything these creatures have shown us. And someone get me a direct line to Earth Command. If we're going to save the galaxy, we're going to need every human ship we can get. As the crew of the Horizon began their desperate race against time, the creatures they had once called Devourers continued their patient vigil. The gardeners had waited centuries for someone to listen to their warnings. Now, with humanity's help, they might finally have a chance to save the galaxy from destroying itself. The journey to the Gardener's Sanctuary took the Horizon through regions of space that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Captain Torres watched through the viewports as normal space gave way to something that defied every law of physics she had ever learned. Stars appeared to be inside out, their light flowing backward into space, while entire nebulae moved in patterns that suggested they were alive and breathing. The quantum virus has been spreading for longer than we thought, Dr. Webb observed, his instruments struggling to make sense of the readings. These regions of space have been partially transformed. Reality itself is becoming unstable. The largest gardener, who had become their guide, moved alongside the horizon like a living constellation. Its bioluminescent patterns had taken on a somber quality, pulsing in slow, mournful rhythms that seemed to match the twisted nature of the space around them. Through the translation matrix, it explained that these regions had once been home to thriving civilizations, but the quantum virus had consumed them decades ago. How many species have been lost? Torres asked, though she dreaded the answer. The gardener's response came through in images rather than words. Entire star systems, populated by beings of incredible diversity and beauty, all reduced to quantum static when the virus reached critical mass in their regions. The death toll was not measured in billions, but in entire evolutionary timelines that had been erased from existence. Engineering Chief Rodriguez worked frantically at her station, trying to understand how the ship's quantum systems were remaining stable in this chaotic region of space. Captain, our quantum drives are operating normally, but everything around us is in quantum flux. It's like we're surrounded by a storm, but we're in the eye of it. The answer came when they finally reached the Gardener's Sanctuary. The massive living ship materialized around them like a blooming flower, its bioluminescent hull extending in impossible directions that seemed to fold space itself. As the horizon was guided into a docking bay that felt larger on the inside than it appeared from outside, Torres realized they were looking at technology that was millions of years more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Welcome to the last garden, the gardener communicated as they disembarked. Here we preserve what we can of those who have been lost to the virus. The interior of the sanctuary was breathtaking and heartbreaking in equal measure. Vast chambers held living museums of extinct civilizations, their art, culture, and knowledge preserved in quantum matrices that allowed them to exist as interactive memories. Torres and her crew walked among the ghosts of entire species, listening to their stories and understanding for the first time the true scope of what the galaxy was facing. This is why we have been fighting, another gardener explained. Its massive form moving through the chambers like a gentle giant. Every installation we destroy, every ship we disable, we do so to prevent the virus from spreading further, but we are losing the war. Dr. Webb was mesmerized by the technology around them, his scientific instruments, recording everything they could about the quantum matrices that kept the sanctuary stable. How do you maintain quantum coherence in a region where space-time is unstable? The gardener's response was to show them the heart of the sanctuary, a massive quantum computer that existed partially outside normal reality. The computer was analyzing the virus in real time, tracking its spread through the galaxy's quantum communication networks and predicting where it would strike next. The virus spreads through quantum entanglement, the gardener explained. Every time a species uses faster-than-light communication or travel, they create quantum links that the virus can follow. Your species' technology works on different principles, which is why you may be immune. Torres studied the massive display showing the virus's spread through the galaxy. The infection was more advanced than anyone had realized, with tendrils of quantum instability reaching into every major system. The Galactic Council's core worlds were already partially infected, and the quantum barrier network they were building would only accelerate the virus's spread. "Show us the barrier network," Torres requested, and the display changed to show the massive construction project that spanned dozens of systems. The barriers were designed to create a quantum field that would repel the devourers, but Torres could see that the resonance patterns would actually provide the virus with the energy it needed to undergo exponential expansion. "When will they activate it?" she asked. The gardener's response was immediate and terrifying. "The activation sequence has already begun. The Council believes they are under imminent attack and have accelerated their timeline. The barriers will reach full power within 48 hours. Rodriguez looked up from her analysis of the quantum computer. "Captain, if they're right about the exponential expansion, we're looking at the collapse of quantum coherence across half the galaxy. Trillions of beings will simply cease to exist as reality breaks down around them." The gardener showed them what had happened to the 3 star systems that had already been consumed. The recordings were difficult to watch, showing civilizations that had reached incredible heights of achievement, simply vanishing as the quantum virus transformed their regions of space into chaotic storms of unstable reality. "We have tried to warn them," the gardener continued, its bioluminescent patterns now pulsing with what appeared to be sadness. "But our appearance terrifies them, and our methods seem destructive. They see us as the enemy rather than as healers, trying to save them." Torres realized the cruel irony of the situation. The gardeners had been trying to save the galaxy by destroying infected installations, but their actions had only convinced the other species that they were under attack. The defensive measures being built to stop the gardeners would actually accomplish what the virus alone could not: the complete collapse of galactic civilization. "What about a cure?" Dr. Webb asked. "You've been studying this virus for centuries. There must be some way to stop it." The gardener's response came in the form of complex mathematical equations that appeared in the air around them. The cure existed, but it required a level of quantum manipulation that was beyond the technology of any single species. It would need to be deployed simultaneously across the entire galaxy, harmonizing the quantum fields that the virus had destabilized. "We lack the resources to deploy such a cure," the gardener explained. "Our numbers are few, and we cannot be in all places at once, but your species' technology might provide the key. Human quantum computers operate on principles that could adapt to the harmonic frequencies needed for the cure." Torres felt the weight of the entire galaxy settling on her shoulders. "What do you need from us?" The gardener's response was both simple and terrifying. "We need humans to interface directly with our biotechnology. The process is dangerous, but it would allow us to create a quantum harmonizer that could stabilize space-time across multiple systems simultaneously." Rodriguez stepped forward, her engineering mind already working through the implications. "Captain, if we can create a harmonizer that works with human technology, we might be able to network it through our quantum communication systems, but we'd need to work fast." The gardener's bioluminescent patterns brightened with what appeared to be hope. "There is more. Your species has something that ours lost long ago, the ability to inspire others to look beyond their fears. If you can convince the other species to work with us instead of against us, we might have a chance." Torres looked around at the massive sanctuary, at the preserved memories of extinct civilizations, and at the quantum displays showing the virus's inexorable spread through the galaxy. The task seemed impossible, but she had learned that humans had a talent for achieving the impossible when the stakes were high enough. We'll need to split our efforts, she decided. Half of us will work with you to develop the cure, while the other half returns to warn the Council and try to prevent the activation of the barrier network. The gardener's response was immediate. Time is short, but we will do everything in our power to help you succeed. The fate of the galaxy depends on it. As the crew of the Horizon began their desperate work alongside beings they had once thought were monsters, the quantum virus continued its silent advance through the galaxy. The barriers designed to stop the gardeners grew closer to activation. With each passing hour, and with them, the potential for destruction on a scale that no civilization had ever imagined. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in their recorded history. Representatives from every major species had gathered at Meridian Station, but instead of the usual diplomatic protocols, the chamber buzzed with panic and confusion. The quantum barrier network was less than 12 hours from full activation, and reports of system failures were coming in from across the galaxy. Captain Torres stood before the assembled delegates, her small human form dwarfed by the massive representatives of the other species. Behind her, holographic displays showed the data she had gathered from the gardeners, but she could see the doubt and fear in every compound eye, sensory organ, and crystalline formation that served as faces for the galaxy's leadership. Honored delegates, Torres began, her voice carrying across the chamber through the universal translators, what you call devourers are not your enemies. They are called gardeners, and they have been trying to save the galaxy from a quantum virus that spreads through our faster-than-light technology. The Hive Queen speaker's wings began beating rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. Human Captain, you ask us to believe that the creatures that have destroyed our colonies are actually trying to help us? This is impossible. Torres activated. The holographic displays showing the quantum viruses spread through the galaxy. The virus is invisible to most detection systems, but it's been consuming space-time itself. Every faster-than-light jump, every quantum communication spreads the infection. The gardeners have been destroying infected installations to contain it. A Stone Singer representative stepped forward, its crystalline form chiming with disbelief. You claim that our technology is the source of this supposed virus? Our quantum systems have operated safely for millennia. That's exactly the problem, Dr. Webb interjected, joining Torres at the display. The virus has been spreading slowly for centuries, but it's reached critical mass. The quantum barriers you're building will create a resonance cascade that will accelerate the virus's spread exponentially. The Nebula Dweller representative swirled into an agitated pattern. Even if what you say is true, it is too late to stop the activation. The barriers are already charging, and the process cannot be reversed. Torres felt her heart sink, but she pressed on. Then we need to work together to deploy the cure. The gardeners have developed a quantum harmonizer that can stabilize space-time, but it requires technology from all our species working in coordination. Meanwhile, aboard the Horizon in the Gardener's Sanctuary, Engineering Chief Rodriguez worked frantically alongside the massive biotechnological computers. The quantum harmonizer was nearly complete, but the interface required a level of neural connection that was pushing human physiology to its limits. The harmonizer needs to be synchronized with quantum fields across the entire galaxy, the lead gardener explained, its bioluminescent patterns pulsing with urgency. Your nervous system can process the quantum calculations, but the strain may be more than any human can survive. Rodriguez looked at the biotechnological interface, a living computer that would require her to merge temporarily with alien technology. What happens if I can't maintain the connection? The harmonizer will fail, and the virus will consume the galaxy, the gardener replied simply. But if you succeed, we can create a network of quantum stabilizers that will cure the infection permanently. Back at the council chamber, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. Reports were coming in of quantum instabilities appearing in systems across the galaxy. The barriers were creating resonance patterns that were accelerating the virus's spread. Just as the gardeners had predicted, The quantum signatures are destabilizing, the Hive Queen speaker reported, her voice filled with terror. 3 more systems have reported complete communication blackouts. We are losing contact with entire sectors. Torres realized that words alone would not convince the delegates. She activated her communication link with the horizon. Rodriguez, are you ready to attempt the interface? The response came through clearly despite the quantum interference. As ready as I'll ever be, Captain. Beginning neural interface now. The holographic displays in the council chamber suddenly came alive with real-time data from the quantum harmonizer. The delegates watched in stunned silence as Rodriguez's neural patterns merged with the gardener's biotechnology, creating a hybrid consciousness that could perceive and manipulate quantum fields on a galactic scale. By the Great Hive, the Queen Speaker whispered. What is she doing? She's interfacing directly with quantum reality, Torres explained, her voice tight with concern for her crew member. The harmonizer requires a biological consciousness to guide it, but no single species has the neural complexity to handle the calculations alone. The displays showed Rodriguez's consciousness expanding across the galaxy, touching quantum fields in distant systems and beginning to harmonize the chaotic energy patterns caused by the virus. But the strain was enormous, and her vital signs were becoming erratic. She cannot maintain this connection for long, Dr. Webb warned. The neural feedback is approaching dangerous levels. At that moment, something unexpected happened. The lead gardener, who had been monitoring the process from the sanctuary, made a decision that changed everything. It began to merge its own consciousness with Rodriguez's, sharing the computational load and stabilizing the interface. We are stronger together, the gardener communicated through the harmonizer. Your species brings innovation and adaptability. Ours brings experience and knowledge. Together we can heal the galaxy. The combined consciousness of human and gardener began to deploy quantum stabilizers across the galaxy. The process was visible on the displays as waves of harmonized energy spread outward from the sanctuary, countering the virus's chaotic influence and restoring normal space-time to infected regions. The delegates watched in awe as star systems that had been reported as lost suddenly came back online. Communication networks that had been silent for days began transmitting again. The quantum barriers, instead of creating a resonance cascade, were being transformed into stabilization nodes that help spread the cure. It's working, the stone singer representative chimed, its crystalline form resonating with harmonious tones. The quantum signatures are stabilizing across all affected systems, but the victory came at a cost. The neural interface was pushing both Rodriguez and the gardener beyond their limits. Their combined consciousness was beginning to fragment under the strain of processing galactic-scale quantum calculations. We need more processing power, Rodriguez's voice came through the communication link, distorted by the quantum interference. The virus is fighting back. It's adapting to our countermeasures. Torres made a decision that would define humanity's role in the galaxy for generations to come. All human ships, this is Captain Torres. We need volunteers for neural interface with Gardner technology. The fate of the galaxy depends on it. The response was immediate. Human ships across the galaxy began reporting volunteers ready to interface with Gardner biotechnology. The network of quantum harmonizers grew stronger as more human consciousnesses joined the effort, each one adding their unique perspective and capabilities to the growing collective. Your species is remarkable, the lead gardener communicated. As the network stabilized, you face the unknown with curiosity rather than fear. This is why you succeeded where others could not. The final phase of the cure required the cooperation of all galactic species. The quantum barriers were transformed into relay stations that amplified the harmonizing effect, while the stone singers provided resonance frequencies that helped stabilize the quantum fields. The nebula dwellers used their gaseous forms to distribute the cure through interstellar space, and the Hive Collective coordinated the effort through their quantum communication networks. As the cure spread through the galaxy, the virus began to retreat. Regions of space that had been consumed by quantum chaos returned to normal, and the billions of beings who had been lost were restored as space-time itself healed around them. "The virus is contained," Rodriguez reported, her voice weak but triumphant. "Quantum coherence is stabilizing across all affected systems." The gardeners began to emerge from their hidden sanctuaries, their massive forms no longer terrifying, but beautiful as they worked alongside the other species to complete the healing process. The galaxy had been saved not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through cooperation and understanding. "We have much to learn from each other," the lead gardener communicated to the assembled delegates. "Your species saw past our frightening appearance to understand our true purpose. This is a gift that will serve the galaxy well in the years to come." Torres looked around the council chamber, seeing the wonder and relief in the faces of beings who had been enemies just hours before. The quantum virus had been defeated, but, more importantly, the galaxy had learned that even the most terrifying monsters could become the greatest allies when approached with curiosity instead of fear. "The gardeners will no longer need to work in secret," Torres announced. "They will take their place as equal members of the galactic community, helping to guide and protect the civilizations they have spent centuries saving." As the emergency session ended and the delegates began to disperse, Torres reflected on the events that had brought them to this moment. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy not as conquerors or destroyers, but as bridges between understanding and fear, between the known and the unknown. The monsters that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries had become its greatest protectors, and the galaxy would never be the same.